We're back with our series of videos on the saturation of the superhero genre in cinema. In our last video, we saw how it all began. If you haven't watched it yet, click on the card above and watch it before continuing. Then come back and pick up where you left off to understand the whole story. If you already know us, smash that like button and share this video. If you're new here, watch the video till the end, and if you like it, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Last time, we learned that the first wave of superhero movies started with Superman, the movie in 1978, which ended in 1987 with Superman 4. Michael Uslan and Benjamin Melniker acquired the film rights of Batman, still strongly associated with the 1960s TV series. They spent years trying to convince Hollywood studios that the character could be treated seriously and darkly, closer to the original comics. Finally, with the support of Warner Bros., they brought Tim Burton on board to direct Batman, 1989, kicking off the second wave of superhero movies. The Dark Knight. Something not many talk about is that 11 years had already passed since Superman, and the cinema scenario was completely different. We lived an era where action films were the thing, like Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone's Rambo 3, and Die Hard, starring Bruce Willis, all of them successes of 1988. In 1989, Lethal Weapon 2 and Back to the Future 2 were highly anticipated, as Batman would be the outsider, with little to no trust from the executives in Hollywood. Among those, Burton's film managed to be a resounding success, setting a new standard for superhero movies and paving the way for a new era of comic book adaptations to the big screen. Michael Keaton embodied a dark and mysterious Batman, in contrast to Jack Nicholson's insane Joker. With a modest budget of $35 million, the film grossed over $400 million, showing that audiences were craving a more adult version of the hero. With the iconic score by Danny Elfman, the film not only set the tone for the most desired superhero movies of the moment but also defined the character's aesthetic in the comics and other media. The Batman animated series and its representation in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited are heavily inspired by Tim Burton's version, as well as Jack Nicholson's Joker design becoming iconic. The undeniable success in theaters and in the sale of licensed products could only mean one thing for Hollywood: sequel. And so it happened. In 1992, Batman Returns continued the saga but began to show signs of division in both critics and audiences due to its more complex and even darker approach. This time, Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito joined the party as Catwoman and the Penguin, respectively. The film maintained the dark atmosphere but was not as successful as its predecessor, grossing around $266 million with a budget of $80 million. Stepping into fantasy territory, Catwoman gains powers after a near-death experience, while the Penguin, born with deformities that resemble the birds that gave him his nickname, is abandoned by his parents and thrown into the river, where he is carried to a family of penguins that raise him into adulthood. Upon returning to society, the villain runs for mayor of Gotham but actually has a secret plan to destroy it. Catwoman plays the role of an anti-heroine, seeking revenge and ends up romantically involved with Batman, leading to one of the most iconic scenes in superhero movie history. Yeah, that one. The profit not being as large as the first film led executives to decide to change the character's approach, as they were making a fortune with licensed products, and decided to target the next films to a younger audience to try to capitalize on that. The franchise continued with Batman Forever, 1995, which clearly showed a significant change in tone and aesthetics under Joel Schumacher's direction. Although it maintained financial success, the film divided fans and critics due to its more commercial and less dark approach. Now with Val Kilmer as Batman, Gotham City became filled with vibrant colors and neon lights, with villains like Two-Face and the Riddler, played by Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. Despite mixed reviews, the film grossed over $336 million, showing that the change in tone had its fans. However, it was with Batman and Robin, 1997, that the franchise hit its lowest point. Schumacher turned Gotham into a kind of amusement park, with Batman, now played by George Clooney, and Robin facing villains like Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman. Mr. Freeze's evil plan was to freeze the world, while Poison Ivy aimed to save all the planet's flora by killing all humans. Unfortunately, the screenwriter did not realize that the villains' goals were contradictory to each other and made them ally. The production also didn't bother to put much effort, using extremely poor special effects for the film's budget, relying solely on the sale of toys and products referencing the film, which introduced, in addition to Batman and Robin's new uniforms, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, and Batgirl as licensing material. In the end, with a budget of $125 million, the film grossed only about $238 million, being considered a failure and criticized for its excessively campy and joke-filled tone. That temporarily ended the Batman franchise in theaters. Batman brought the essence of his stories to the cinema in 1989, bringing the tragedy of the Waynes, the trauma of young Bruce that turned him into a relentless crime fighter who used fear to his advantage, facing a chaotic psychopath and addressing tough and personal themes, without holding back in its representations. But, like what happened with Superman, many people went to see the film out of novelty, which gave it an excellent initial boost. Then, by delving into the mythology and world-building of that version of Batman in the sequel, executives understood that the reduction in box office returns was due to the dark themes addressed in the film, determining radical changes, which not only alienated the audience this time but also the director and the actor who played the protagonist. The third film, still counting on the public's goodwill, managed a reasonable success, also due to Jim Carrey's portrayal of the Riddler, which was indeed remarkable, but with a somewhat predictable and unsurprising plot, focusing a lot on the hero's new costumes and gadgets aiming for their licensing later on. The final nail in the coffin was with the film that fully embraced the camp and relied on jokes like the Bat credit card, even referring to the 1960s TV series. What happened with Batman partly mirrors what happened with the Superman films, with the difference that in the Superman films, the budget progressively decreased, while in the Batman films, the budgets progressively increased. At this point, it seemed like we would have another downturn in superhero films, but Warner Bros. Competition decided to make comic book-based films as well, which would raise the third wave of superhero movies on the big screen, which will be the subject of the next video. What do you think? Do you think there was another reason for the drop in box office returns for Batman films? What would it be? Do you think I forgot something? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for staying until the end of the video and see you next time.